The steering wheel was slick beneath Vanessa's trembling fingers. Rain pelted the windshield in angry bursts, matching the rhythm of her heartbeat. She'd been sitting in the darkened corner of the Harbor View Hotel parking lot for almost 2 hours now. Her silver Audi hidden between a delivery van and an SUV found 42 p.m. The dashboard clock's soft blue glow illuminated her face as she checked her phone again. No messages. Just the weather app warning of an incoming storm. He'll be here at 8. He always is. The reservation confirmation had appeared in their shared email account 3 days ago. A suite at the Harbor View for tonight, their 15th anniversary. Except Daniel hadn't mentioned it to her, not once. When he'd kissed her goodbye this morning, telling her he had a conference in Philadelphia that would keep him overnight, the betrayal had crystallized into something hard and unbreakable in her chest. Vanessa took another sip from the flask she'd filled with Daniel's favorite 18-year-old Macallan. The whiskey burned, but not enough to cauterize the wound that had been festering for months. The signs had been there. The late nights, the business trips that yielded no expense reports, the growing distance between them in a bed that had once been their sanctuary. Her phone lit up. A text from Lily, their 16-year-old daughter. "When are you coming home?" Dad's not answering his phone. Vanessa's fingers hovered over the keyboard. What could she possibly say? "I'm stalking your father outside a hotel because I think he's having an affair." "Don't wait up, honey." Instead, she typed, "Working late on the Richardson case. There's lasagna in the fridge. Love you, a lie to cover a lie." The symmetry wasn't lost on her. Movement at the hotel entrance caught her eye. A black Range Rover pulled up, its headlights cutting through the rain. Vanessa's breath caught. Daniel's car. He'd upgraded from the Lexus 6 months ago, around the time the late nights started. She slouched lower in her seat, watching as Daniel stepped out, opening an umbrella. He looked exactly as he had that morning. Navy suit, crisp white shirt, the silver tie she'd given him for Christmas. He rounded the car to the passenger side. The door opened and a woman emerged. Tall, blonde, younger. Even from this distance, Vanessa recognized her. Rebecca Caldwell, Daniel's new marketing director. Something inside Vanessa snapped like a bone breaking through skin. She turned the key in the ignition. 6 months earlier. "You hired who?" Vanessa looked up from her laptop, the quarterly tax reports momentarily forgotten. Daniel loosened his tie as he poured himself a glass of water at the kitchen island. "Rebecca Caldwell. She was with Meridian Group. Their loss is our gain. She increased their digital footprint by 70% in 18 months. Rebecca Caldwell," Vanessa repeated, testing the name. "Blonde, about 30? 32, Daniel corrected, then caught himself. "I think. Why?" "She was at the Christmas party. You introduced us." Daniel nodded, casual. Too casual. "Right. She made quite an impression on the board then. When the marketing position opened up, she was the first person I thought of." "I bet she was," Vanessa thought, but said nothing. Instead, she watched her husband of nearly 15 years as he moved around their kitchen with the comfortable familiarity of someone who belonged there. Daniel James Wright, 43, founder and CEO of Wright Financial Solutions. Her college sweetheart turned business mogul, father to their 2 children, the man whose smile still made her heart skip even after all these years, or at least it used to. "How's the Richardson case?" Daniel asked, changing the subject. Vanessa closed her laptop. As a tax attorney specializing in high-net-worth clients, her work kept her just as busy as Daniel's. "Complicated. The IRS is questioning some offshore investments. Nothing I can't handle." "That's my girl," Daniel said with a wink that felt like an echo of their earlier selves. A thunder of footsteps interrupted them as Lily barreled into the kitchen. Earbuds in, followed by their 12-year-old son. "Max, Mom, can you sign this?" Lily thrust a permission slip in front of Vanessa. "It's for the overnight science trip to the observatory." "Dad, you promised to help with my rocket design tonight," Max reminded Daniel, already pulling at his sleeve. Just like that. They were back to being parents instead of people, a transition Vanessa had grown accustomed to over the years. The moment, whatever it had been, was lost. That night, after the kids were asleep, Vanessa found herself scrolling through Rebecca Caldwell's social media profiles. Harvard MBA, marathoner, former model, single. Her photos showed a woman who lived a carefully curated life: charity galas, mountain hikes, mimosa brunches. In one image, taken at an industry conference 3 months ago, Daniel appeared in the background, his head bent toward another executive. Unaware he was being photographed, Vanessa closed the browser, feeling slightly ashamed. This wasn't like her, the suspicious wife, digital stalking her husband's employees. She had never been the jealous type. But lately something felt off. Daniel had been distracted, checking his phone more often, working later than usual. Small things that might mean nothing or might mean everything. As if summoned by her thoughts, Daniel entered their bedroom. "Kids asleep?" Vanessa asked, setting her phone aside. "Max is reading, but he promised lights out in 15. Daniel sat on the edge of the bed and began removing his watch. "Lily's doing that thing where she pretends to be asleep but is probably texting her friends." Vanessa smiled despite herself. "She gets that from you." "What? I never pretend to be asleep." "No, the inability to disconnect." Vanessa hesitated, then asked, "How was your first day with the new marketing director?" Daniel's hands paused briefly as he placed his watch on the nightstand. "Good. She has some interesting ideas for the rebranding." He stood and began unbuttoning his shirt. "I think she's going to be a valuable addition to the team." Vanessa watched his back as he walked to the bathroom. His shoulders seemed tense. Or was she imagining things? "Daniel?" she called after him. He turned. "Yes? Are we okay?" He looked momentarily surprised, then his expression softened. "Of course we are. Why wouldn't we be?" "I don't know. You seem distant lately." Daniel returned to the bed and sat beside her, taking her hand. "I've been stressed about the Nakamura account. If we land it, it means expansion into Asian markets." He kissed her forehead. "I'm sorry if I've been distracted." "It's just work," Vanessa nodded, wanting to believe him. "Okay. How about this? Once the Nakamura deal is done, we take that trip to Tuscany we've been talking about. Just the two of us. What about the kids? Your sister has been begging to have them visit. They can stay with Sarah and Brad." The promise of Tuscany, vineyards and ancient villages and uninterrupted time together, hung between them like a fragile bubble. Vanessa wanted to protect it, to believe in it. "That sounds perfect," she said. Daniel smiled. A genuine smile that reached his eyes, and for a moment her doubts receded. Later, as Daniel slept beside her, Vanessa stared at the ceiling, listening to the steady rhythm of his breathing. They'd made love, a rare occurrence these days, and it had been good. Familiar yet satisfying, like returning to a favorite book. But as Daniel had moved above her, she'd caught him closing his eyes, and she'd wondered if he was picturing someone else. "Stop it," she scolded herself. "You're being paranoid," but the seed of doubt had been planted, and in the fertile soil of a 15-year marriage experiencing its first real drought, it was beginning to take root. The weeks that followed did nothing to ease Vanessa's growing suspicion. Daniel's late nights became more frequent. The Nakamura account was secured, but the promised Tuscany trip was postponed. Indefinitely, it seemed, as new projects materialized to take its place. And then there were the small changes in Daniel himself. He upgraded his car, started wearing cologne again, Tom Ford's Oud Wood, which Vanessa had always loved, but Daniel had deemed too expensive for daily wear. He joined a new gym, purchased tailored shirts that accentuated his still-fit physique. Midlife crisis? Sarah had suggested when Vanessa mentioned it during their weekly coffee date. "Maybe," Vanessa conceded, stirring her latte absently. "But it's more than that. He's different." Sarah's expression turned serious. "Different how?" "He's never home. When he is, he's distracted, checking his phone constantly." Vanessa hesitated, then added, "And we hardly ever have sex anymore. Have you talked to him about it?" "I've tried. He says it's work stress. The company is expanding, new clients, more responsibility." Vanessa shrugged. And it's not like my career gives me much moral high ground. I was in court until 9 last night. But you're not the one acting suspiciously, Sarah pointed out. Have you considered that he might be having an affair? Vanessa finished for her. The words felt foreign in her mouth, bitter and heavy. I've considered it. With anyone specific in mind? Vanessa thought of Rebecca Caldwell, of the way Daniel's voice changed subtly when he mentioned her name. More animated, enthusiastic. His new marketing director, she admitted. She's gorgeous, brilliant, and 15 years younger than me. Sarah reached across the table and squeezed Vanessa's hand. And you're gorgeous, brilliant, and have history and children with him. Don't sell yourself short. I'm not. Vanessa trailed off, unsure how to articulate the hollow feeling that had taken residence in her chest. Something's not right. Then find out what it is, Sarah said firmly. You're a litigator, for God's sake. Gather evidence. What, hire a private investigator? Install spyware on his phone? Vanessa shook her head. I can't do that to him. To us. Then talk to him. Really talk to him. No distractions, no kids, no work emergencies. Make him listen. Vanessa nodded, though the prospect filled her with dread. What if she forced a conversation and learned things she couldn't unhear? What if her suspicions were confirmed? Was knowing the truth worth potentially destroying the life they'd built? But the alternative, living with uncertainty, watching her marriage erode from within, seemed equally unbearable. That evening, she attempted to follow Sarah's advice. She arranged for the kids to have dinner at friends' houses, prepared Daniel's favorite meal, pan-seared scallops with risotto, and opened a bottle of the Barolo they'd brought back from their 10th anniversary trip to Italy. When Daniel called to say he'd be late, the carefully arranged table setting seemed to mock her. How late? She asked, working to keep her voice neutral. 9, maybe? We're finalizing the presentation for tomorrow's client meeting. We? The word slipped out before she could stop it. A pause. The team. Rebecca and I are leading it, but marketing and sales are all here. I made dinner, Vanessa said, staring at the scallops she'd splurged on. Your favorite. Another pause, longer this time. I'm sorry, Van, I can't leave right now. We're in the middle of… It's fine, she interrupted, her voice tight. I understand. Save me a plate? I'll heat it up when I get home. Sure. After they hung up, Vanessa sat at the dining table alone, the candles burning lower as she mechanically ate her perfectly prepared meal. By the time Daniel arrived home, closer to 10 than 9, she was in bed, pretending to be asleep. The scallops remained on the counter, untouched. The final straw came 3 months later, when Vanessa arrived home unexpectedly early from a court appearance that had been rescheduled. Daniel's car was in the driveway, surprising her. He rarely came home for lunch. She entered quietly, setting her briefcase down in the foyer. The house was silent except for the faint sound of voices coming from Daniel's home office. As she approached, she recognized his laugh, a specific laugh she hadn't heard in months. Warm, genuine, unguarded. The door was ajar. Through the gap, Vanessa could see Daniel seated at his desk, his back to her. A laptop was open in front of him, and on the screen was Rebecca Caldwell, her blonde hair loose around her shoulders, smiling at whatever Daniel had just said. You should have seen their faces, Daniel was saying. When we revealed the projections, I thought old man Nakamura was going to fall out of his chair. Rebecca laughed. That's because your presentation skills are unmatched. You had them eating out of your hand from the first slide? We make a good team, Daniel said, his voice dropping slightly. The best, Rebecca agreed, her tone equally intimate. About tonight. 8 o'clock as usual, Daniel confirmed. I told Vanessa I have a conference in Philadelphia. I'll be back tomorrow afternoon. Vanessa's blood turned to ice in her veins. She backed away from the door silently, retrieving her briefcase and slipping out of the house the way she'd come in. In her car, she sat motionless, hands gripping the steering wheel so tightly her knuckles turned white. As usual. As usual. As usual. The words echoed in her mind like a death knell. This wasn't a one-time indiscretion. This was an ongoing affair. Her phone rang, her assistant, wondering where she was. The mundane question snapped Vanessa back to reality. "I'm not feeling well," she said. "Cancel my afternoon appointments. I'm taking the rest of the day off." As she drove aimlessly through the city, Vanessa's shock gave way to a cold, clear rage. By the time she returned home hours later, after Daniel had left for his fictional conference, she knew exactly what she was going to do. That evening, she logged into their shared email account and searched for hotel reservations. It didn't take long to find it. The Harborview Hotel, a suite for one night. Daniel had used their joint credit card. He hadn't even bothered to cover his tracks. Either he's getting careless or he just doesn't care anymore, Vanessa thought. She transferred funds from their joint savings account to her personal account, enough to retain the best divorce attorney in the city. Then she called Sarah. "I need you to take the kids tomorrow night," she said without preamble. "What happened?" Sarah's concern was immediate. "I was right about Daniel. He's meeting her at the Harborview Hotel tomorrow night." "Oh, Van, I'm so sorry." "Don't be. I'm done being sorry. Now I'm just angry. What are you going to do?" Vanessa stared at the hotel reservation on her screen. "I'm going to catch them in the act. I need evidence for the divorce." "Are you sure that's wise? Confronting them could get ugly." "It's already ugly," Vanessa said flatly. "I just want him to know that I know. That I'm not a fool." After hanging up, Vanessa sat in her darkened home office, scrolling through photos on her phone. Daniel and Max at last year's science fair. Lily's sweet 16 with Daniel giving a tearful toast. Their family vacation to Costa Rica. Their life, documented in perfectly framed moments that now seemed like artifacts from someone else's happiness. She paused on a photo from their anniversary last year, Daniel looking at her with undisguised affection as she blew out the candles on their cake. What had changed since then? When had she stopped being enough? Or perhaps the better question was, when would she start being enough for herself? The Range Rover's brake lights glowed red through the rain as Daniel parked near the hotel entrance. Vanessa watched as he and Rebecca hurried inside, huddled beneath the umbrella, his hand resting possessively on the small of her back. The intimate gesture ignited something primal within her. This wasn't just sex. This was connection, affection, the things that had been missing from her own marriage. She should follow them inside. Confront them in the lobby, create a scene worthy of her pain, but Vanessa didn't move. Instead, she found herself scrolling through her phone to the text messages she'd exchanged with Daniel earlier that day. "How's the conference?" she'd asked, testing him. "Boring. Same old regulatory updates. Miss you." His response had come quickly, rehearsed. "Miss you." The casual lie stung worse than the elaborate ones. Another text appeared on her screen. Max this time. "Mom, when will you be home? Need help with algebra." Vanessa stared at the message, a strange calm settling over her. Her children were waiting. Her life was waiting. And here she was, sitting in a dark parking lot, spying on the ruins of her marriage. What would confronting them actually accomplish? A momentary satisfaction followed by public humiliation? Was that the example she wanted to set for Lily and Max? She started the car, intending to drive away to go home to her children and begin the process of rebuilding her life without Daniel. But as she put the car in reverse, another vehicle pulled into the lot, a taxi dropping off a late arrival at the hotel. The taxi's headlights swept across the parking area, briefly illuminating Daniel's Range Rover, and something inside Vanessa shifted. 15 years. 2 children. Countless sacrifices. The career opportunities she'd declined to support his ambitions. The loneliness she'd endured during his business trips, real and imagined. The emotional labor she'd performed to keep their family functioning while he pursued success. All of it discarded for a younger woman and secret hotel rendezvous. Before she could reconsider, Vanessa shifted into drive and pressed the accelerator. The Audi leaped forward, tires slipping slightly on the wet pavement. She aimed directly for the Range Rover's driver's side, where the impact would be most dramatic but least dangerous. The collision was louder than she'd expected, a cacophony of crunching metal and shattering glass that seemed to reverberate through her very bones. The airbag deployed, momentarily stunning her, filling her nostrils with the acrid smell of chemical propellant. When her senses cleared, Vanessa saw that she'd crumpled the driver's side door of Daniel's beloved Range Rover, pushing it several feet from its parking space. Her own car had fared better, though the front end was significantly damaged. She hadn't planned what would happen next, hadn't thought beyond the moment of impact. But as hotel security rushed out, followed by curious guests drawn by the noise, Vanessa found herself stepping calmly from her vehicle, flask in hand. "Ma'am, are you all right?" A security guard approached, eyeing her warily. "I'm fine," Vanessa said, taking a deliberate sip from the flask. "Just had a little accident." "Have you been drinking?" the guard asked, his expression hardening. "Yes," Vanessa admitted, though in reality she'd barely touched the whiskey. "Could you please tell the owner of this vehicle that his wife is here? He's inside with his marketing director. Suite 712, I believe." The guard hesitated, clearly uncertain how to handle the situation. "It's our anniversary," Vanessa added with a smile that didn't reach her eyes. As the guard spoke into his radio, a small crowd gathered. Vanessa leaned against her damaged car, oddly detached from the scene unfolding around her. This wasn't how she'd imagined her 15th anniversary. But then neither had Daniel. She didn't have to wait long. Less than 5 minutes later, Daniel emerged from the hotel, his face a mask of confusion that quickly transformed to horror when he saw her standing beside the wreckage of their cars. "Vanessa?" he called, rushing toward her. "What the hell happened? Are you hurt?" "Happy anniversary, Daniel," she replied, her voice steady. "Surprise." He stopped short, his expression cycling rapidly through shock, guilt, and anger. "What have you done?" "I think the more relevant question is, what have you done?" Vanessa countered, loud enough for the onlookers to hear. Daniel glanced around, suddenly aware of their audience. "Let's talk about this privately." "Why? Are you embarrassed to have our marital problems on display?" Vanessa gestured toward the hotel. "Is Rebecca waiting upstairs, in our anniversary suite?" Daniel's face paled. "Vanessa, please." "Please what?" "Please don't make a scene. Please pretend I don't know you've been fucking your marketing director for months. Please act like a good, understanding wife while you dismantle our marriage." The crowd had grown larger. Among them, Vanessa spotted Rebecca hovering near the hotel entrance, her expression stricken. "You're drunk," Daniel said, lowering his voice and stepping closer. "You've been drinking and you crashed your car. We need to get you home before the police arrive." "I'm not drunk," Vanessa replied. "I'm just done pretending." She turned to address the gathered spectators. "My husband is having an affair with his employee. Today is our 15th anniversary, which he's celebrating with her in the Harborview Hotel, while telling me he's at a conference in Philadelphia." She raised the flask in a mock toast. "To honesty!" Daniel grabbed her arm, his fingers digging into her flesh. "Stop this now!" The pain of his grip cut through Vanessa's detachment, bringing her fully into the moment. She looked down at his hand, then up at his face. This man she had loved for so long, now a stranger contorted with rage and humiliation. "Take your hand off me," she said quietly. "Not until you calm down." "Sir, I need you to step back," the security guard intervened. Moving between them, Daniel released her arm but continued glaring at Vanessa. "Do you have any idea what you've done? The scene you've created?" "Yes," Vanessa said simply. "I've finally stopped being a supporting character in your life story." In the distance, police sirens wailed, growing louder. The police officers took statements from everyone involved: Vanessa, Daniel, the security guard, and several witnesses. Vanessa admitted to deliberately crashing into Daniel's car, but maintained she wasn't intoxicated. A breathalyzer test confirmed she was well under the legal limit. "She's been under tremendous stress," Daniel told the officers, his voice lowered conspiratorially. "She's imagining things. I was here for a business dinner with colleagues." The younger officer glanced toward Rebecca, who was standing awkwardly nearby. "Is that your colleague, sir?" "Yes, my marketing director. We have a presentation tomorrow." "At a hotel? On a Saturday night?" The officer's skepticism was evident. "Our client is staying here," Daniel improvised smoothly. "It was convenient." Vanessa laughed bitterly. Convenient. Yes, that's exactly what this arrangement has been for you, hasn't it, Daniel? The older officer, a woman with tired eyes and a wedding ring worn thin by years, intervened. Ma'am, regardless of the circumstances, you deliberately damaged property. That's a crime. I understand, Vanessa said. I'll take responsibility for my actions. Will my husband be doing the same? Daniel's jaw tightened. This is absurd. I want to press charges, the female officer nodded. That's your right, sir. Ms. Wright, we'll need you to come to the station. Actually, Vanessa said, it's Mrs. Wright. I'm his wife. The officer's expression didn't change, but something in her eyes shifted. I see. Mr. Wright, perhaps you'd like to reconsider pressing charges against your wife? This could become a civil matter. Daniel hesitated, clearly calculating the public relations nightmare that would ensue if he had his wife arrested on their anniversary. Fine, he conceded. But she needs help. Professional help, the officer nodded. We still need to document the incident. Insurance will want a police report. As the officers continued their work, Daniel pulled Vanessa aside, his voice a harsh whisper. What the hell were you thinking? Do you know how this looks? I was thinking that my husband is a liar and a cheat, Vanessa replied calmly. And I don't particularly care how it looks. This isn't just about us, Vanessa. Think about the kids. Think about my company. I have thought about the kids every single day while you were building your precious company and sleeping with your employee. I've been thinking about them constantly. Daniel ran a hand through his hair, a gesture so familiar it made Vanessa's heart ache despite everything. It's not what you think. Then what is it, Daniel? Explain it to me. He glanced around, aware of the curious onlookers still lingering despite the police officer's attempts to disperse them. Not here. Yes, here, Vanessa insisted. Right now. Because I'm done with the private lies and the public performance. Daniel's expression hardened. You want the truth? Fine, I've been unhappy for years. You've been so focused on your career, on the kids, on everything except us. When was the last time you asked me how I felt? When was the last time you showed any interest in my life beyond what time I'd be home for dinner? The accusation struck Vanessa like a physical blow. My career? My focus on the kids? Are you serious right now? Dead serious. You checked out of our marriage long before I did, Vanessa. You just didn't have the courage to admit it. Vanessa stared at her husband, this man she'd built a life with, seeing him clearly perhaps for the first time. So this is my fault? Your affair is my responsibility? It's not that simple. Actually, it is. You made choices, Daniel. Choices that hurt me, hurt our family. And instead of owning them, you're trying to justify them by blaming me. From the corner of her eye, Vanessa saw Rebecca approaching cautiously. The younger woman looked uncomfortable, her confident demeanor replaced by uncertainty. Daniel, Rebecca called softly. I should go. Daniel turned, his expression softening immediately. Rebecca, wait. No, I think she's right, Vanessa interrupted. She should go. This conversation is between husband and wife. Rebecca hesitated, looking to Daniel for guidance. It's okay, he told her. We'll talk later. As Rebecca retreated toward the hotel, Vanessa felt a surprising lack of animosity toward the woman. In a strange way, Rebecca was as much a victim of Daniel's selfishness as she was, just one who hadn't realized it yet. She seems nice, Vanessa said once Rebecca was out of earshot. Does she know you blame your wife for your infidelity? Or does she think she's special enough that you'd never do the same to her? Daniel's face flushed with anger. You don't know anything about her. About us, I know enough. I know you've been lying to me for months. I know you used our joint credit card to book a hotel room for your affair on our anniversary. Vanessa's voice cracked slightly. I know you stopped trying in our marriage long before I supposedly checked out. That's not true, isn't it? When was the last time you planned a date night? When was the last time you asked about my cases instead of just complaining about my hours? When was the last time you showed up for one of Max's science competitions or Lily's debate tournaments without being reminded repeatedly? Daniel had no immediate response, his righteous indignation deflating somewhat. You're right about one thing. Vanessa continued. Our marriage has been in trouble. But instead of talking to me about it, instead of suggesting counseling or making any effort at all to fix things, you took the easy way out. You found someone who doesn't know your flaws yet, who still thinks you're wonderful and perfect. It's not like that, Daniel protested. Then what is it like? Enlighten me. Daniel looked away, unable to meet her gaze. I love her, he said finally. The words hung in the air between them, a final severing of the bond they'd shared for so long. Vanessa absorbed the blow, letting it wash over and through her. She'd suspected as much, but hearing it stated so plainly still hurt in ways she hadn't anticipated. I see, she said quietly. And the kids? Do you love them too? Or are they also casualties of your pursuit of happiness? That's not fair. You know I love our children. Do I? Because the man I thought I knew wouldn't hurt them like this. Wouldn't destroy their family without even trying to save it first. One of the police officers approached, interrupting their conversation. We're finished with the report, Mrs. Wright. Since your husband isn't pressing charges, you're free to go. But I would strongly advise against driving in your current emotional state. I'll call a cab, Vanessa assured her. I can drive you, Daniel offered, surprising both Vanessa and the officer. In what car? Vanessa asked pointedly, gesturing toward the damaged Range Rover. I'll call a car service for both of you, the officer suggested diplomatically. As they waited for the car to arrive, Vanessa and Daniel stood in uncomfortable silence, the rain having subsided to a gentle drizzle that beaded on their clothing and hair. What happens now? Daniel finally asked. Vanessa considered the question. What did happen now? The life she'd built, the future she'd planned, all of it altered irrevocably by tonight's revelations. Now, she said, I go home to our children. I figure out how to tell them that their father has chosen a different path. And then I start rebuilding my life without you. Vanessa, I'm filing for divorce, Daniel. I think we both know there's no coming back from this. He nodded, a mixture of relief and regret crossing his features. I never wanted to hurt you. Or the kids. But you did, Vanessa said simply. And that's something you'll have to live with. The car service arrived, a black sedan with a discreet driver who seemed to sense the tension between his passengers. As they settled into the back seat, carefully maintaining distance between them, Vanessa felt a strange sense of closure. The marriage was over. The life she'd known was over. But she was still here, still breathing, still capable of starting again. Take us to 475 Riverside Drive, she instructed the driver, giving the address of her sister's home rather than the house she shared with Daniel. I'll get my things tomorrow when you're not there, she added quietly. Daniel nodded, looking suddenly older and smaller than she'd ever seen him. What about the kids? They're at Sarah's tonight. I'll talk to them tomorrow. Vanessa gazed out the window at the city lights blurring through the rain-streaked glass. I won't vilify you to them, if that's what you're worried about. But I won't lie to protect you either. I understand. Daniel murmured. The rest of the ride passed in silence, each lost in their own thoughts about the future that stretched before them. Separate paths diverging from the wreckage of their shared past. 3 months later, the courthouse steps were slick with April rain as Vanessa emerged, her attorney beside her. The divorce proceedings had been finalized more quickly than expected, with Daniel agreeing to generous terms, perhaps out of guilt, perhaps out of a desire to move on with his new life. Congratulations, Sarah said, meeting her at the bottom of the steps with an umbrella. How does it feel to be officially single? Vanessa considered the question. Strange, sad, liberating, all of the above. Well, you look amazing, Sarah assured her. That power suit is doing all kinds of good things for you. Vanessa smoothed the lapel of her new charcoal gray suit, part of the wardrobe refresh she'd treated herself to last month. Thanks. I have a client meeting in an hour. The Morton Foundation. The big nonprofit? Impressive. They need help restructuring their tax status. It's a good opportunity to build my new practice. After leaving the firm where she'd worked alongside Daniel's company for years, Vanessa had opened her own boutique tax law practice focusing on nonprofits and charitable organizations. The work was more meaningful, the hours more flexible, and the distance from Daniel's business world necessary for her healing process. As they walked toward the parking garage, Vanessa spotted a familiar figure approaching, Daniel, also emerging from the courthouse with his attorney. "Do you want to avoid him?" Sarah asked, noticing her sister's hesitation. Vanessa shook her head. "No, it's fine." The four adults met awkwardly on the sidewalk, the attorneys nodding professionally to each other before stepping aside to allow the former couple a moment of privacy. "How are you?" Daniel asked. He looked well, rested and fit, though there were new lines around his eyes that Vanessa hadn't noticed before. "I'm good," she replied, surprised to find it was mostly true. "Busy with the new practice. The kids seem to be adjusting to the arrangement." Daniel nodded. "Max mentioned your new office. He said it has a view of the park." "It does. You should come by sometime when you pick them up for the weekend. He could show you his corner of the place." The invitation surprised them both. But Vanessa had discovered that the sharp edges of her anger had softened somewhat with time and distance. Daniel was still the father of her children, a role that couldn't be erased by his failures as a husband. "I'd like that," Daniel said. He hesitated, then added, "I'm sorry, Vanessa, for everything." "The way it ended? It wasn't fair to you." "No, it wasn't," she agreed. "But life rarely is." A sleek silver Tesla pulled up to the curb, and Rebecca emerged from the driver's seat, waving tentatively to Daniel. She stopped short when she saw Vanessa, uncertainty crossing her features. "It's okay," Vanessa called to her. "We're just finishing up," Rebecca approached cautiously. "I didn't mean to interrupt." "You're not," Vanessa assured her. She turned back to Daniel. "I should go. I have a meeting." "Of course." Daniel seemed reluctant to end the conversation, as if there were things left unsaid between them. Perhaps there always would be. As Vanessa and Sarah turned to leave, Daniel called after her. "Vanessa?" She looked back. "I'm proud of you. The new practice, the way you've handled everything with the kids. You're stronger than I gave you credit for." The compliment, unexpected and seemingly genuine, caught Vanessa off guard. For a moment, she glimpsed the man she'd fallen in love with all those years ago, the one who had believed in her before anyone else did. "Thank you," she said simply. In the parking garage, Sarah broke the silence that had fallen between them. "Well, that was mature. Are you okay?" Vanessa considered the question as she unlocked her car, a new Volvo SUV that bore no resemblance to either the Audi she'd crashed or Daniel's Range Rover. "Yes, I think I am." "You didn't seem angry." "I'm not really." "Not anymore." Vanessa leaned against the car door. The anger was exhausting. It served its purpose. It got me through the worst of it. But I couldn't live there forever. Sarah studied her sister with admiration. "Look at you, all evolved and shit," Vanessa laughed, a genuine laugh that surprised her with its ease. "Hardly. I still have moments when I want to set his clothes on fire or send glitter bombs to his office. But you don't. No. Because ultimately that would hurt me more than him, and I'm done hurting because of Daniel Wright." As they parted ways, Vanessa checked her phone. A text from Lily. "Debate team made nationals. Can we celebrate tonight?" Followed by one from Max. "Mom, can you help with my science fair project after dinner?" It's about structural engineering. And finally, a message from her assistant. "Morton Foundation rescheduled for tomorrow. Your afternoon is suddenly free." Vanessa smiled as she typed responses to her children. Congratulations to Lily with promises of her favorite sushi for dinner. Assurance to Max that they'd work on his project together. Then she started her car and pulled out of the parking garage, the courthouse receding in her rearview mirror. The rain had stopped, and sunlight was breaking through the clouds, casting the city in a new light. There would be hard days ahead, birthdays and holidays to navigate, milestones to share with Daniel whether she wanted to or not. The children would continue to be the bridge between them, requiring communication and cooperation despite the pain of the past. But as Vanessa drove toward her new office, her own space, created on her terms, She felt a sense of possibility that had been absent for longer than she cared to admit. The life she'd planned had ended, yes. But the life she was building might ultimately be stronger, more authentic, and more fulfilling than the one she'd lost. At a red light, she caught her reflection in the rearview mirror. The woman looking back at her was changed, harder in some ways, softer in others, but undeniably her own. The light turned green, and Vanessa moved forward.
And that wraps up today's story. Now we want to hear from you. Where are you watching from? Drop your city or country in the comments, and let's see how far these stories reach. If this story moved you or gave you chills, give it a like, share, and subscribe for more powerful stories. One last thing, rate the story from 1 to 10 in the comments. Your feedback helps us bring you even better ones next time. Thanks for watching. We appreciate you being part of this storytelling journey.